Hello, welcome to another kind of update around 11th edition, where today they have dropped the new rules for terrain, or at least some of them. So just kind of going to go through that, kind of talk through what we now know, what it means, changes, and my general thoughts, just to kind of help people as we kind of start to transition towards this new edition. So, again, lovely picture, bit of Drakari, which is great, appearingly against some sisters in a battlefield, which the whole premise of this is they are hoping to make it more diverse. So, terrain is going to be made up of two components, terrain features and terrain areas. Terrain features are the actual physical things you put on the terrain areas, so rocks, trees, barricades, ruins, whatever you want, basically, it says. Then there's the terrain area, which is the physical space that actually denotes what is the rules are impacted by. So whether that is obscuring models, whether it is activating the new hidden rule, plunging fire, all those sorts of things work within that. Yeah, so it's just the physical footprint that we're quite used to now in 10th edition. However, there's a lot of changes around the way in which rules work. So the first one, and again, it only affects infantry, beast, swarm, which is quite common in a lot of kind of aspects, such as where ruins have been breachable and models can move through. There's the hidden rule. Your models that are infantry, beast and swarm can hang out in a ruin, in a terrain area, and not be visible to the enemy at the start of the game, as long as they haven't shot, so that allows them to do an action maybe and kind of hide, so run forward, do area denial equivalent, and kind of stand there and hold a point, or sabotage, something like that. And unless the opponent is within 15 inches and the models are visible, then they can't be shot. So it gives a little bit of safety for your models potentially, depending on how fast the opponent's army is. Also means that if they haven't acted, they, realistically maybe haven't been spotted, so wouldn't be able to be detected and can't be hit by a barrage of 3 plague burst crawlers, which is, nice. So then we also kind of find out that terrain is still obscuring, much as it is today. Obscuring terrain areas cannot be seen through entirely, so it works the same way as before. Infantry, beasts and swarm, so not vehicles, not monsters, now also get a bonus to their cover, which means the opponent is suffering a -1 ballistic skill penalty, which is quite interesting with things like hecatons, riptides that ignore modifiers. It will be interesting to see if they ignore ballistic skills. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's quite different, so it is quite impactful for quite a few armies in terms of being not just -1 to hit, but it will also stack with -1. So if something's hitting on 4s, the unit hiding has stealth or whatever, if there's a new equivalent, and then is -1 ballistic skill, they will be hitting on 6s, which is pretty big for things in terms of their accuracy, consistency. Things like custodes hitting on 4s could be quite detrimental to their accuracy, which is big for survivability of some squishier units like witches and things like that. So yeah, it just talks through kind of the same way, and it's very similar to what we're quite used to. It just showcases the hidden rule as well of Unit C being a little bit too far away because they're over 15 inches from the unit, so they cannot be seen because they haven't been acted. Unit B is within 15 and visible. Unit A is not even within the feature, so it can't be targeted. Interestingly as well, they've shared the 2 parts of a mission, which is nice, so we can now see how these two line up. So we have taken hold and disruption. So we have the take and hold one, where for each objective you control that you didn't control at the start of the turn, in any battle round at the end of the turn you control 2 points. So it's kind of a bit like storm hostile objective as a kind of primary for this one. You can do that in any battle round. So from the first turn you can go rush forward, get probably at least 2 victory points depending on how aggressive the opponent's army has been, and then you get kind of standard for the holding part, which is you get 3 victory points for every objective you control. and then you also get another 3 cumulative ones if you are doing it within your opponent's territory, which I'm sure will be clarified as to what works as that, whether it's their deployment zone or something else. So again, you're incentivized to go take new objectives whilst also retaining control of others, which then is on the other side of the disruption one, which was the booby trap one that's already been shared. So going to be quite interesting how they interact from a scoring point of view, which one is easier, which one generates the most points. But that at least gives us a counterplay to how they kind of match up. So we then have the new terrain itself. These are a pretty big change in terms of what they look like. We have here denoting the 3 different terrain features that are the objectives. So they are what the player needs to control to actually score points or do their actions in to get the bigger points in the disruption one. We then have the kind of home objective, which is now a defined term. So that's nice that even though players have called it that, it's nice that it's now actually got its own kind of proper terminology that just kind of lines up with what we already say. So here we can see there is quite a big departure from what ruins we're used to. The only ones that are the same as already exist are the 6x4s, which you can see 1, 2, 3 and 4 of them on this layout. This is Crucible of Battle, so that's another deployment that's still going to exist, same as what we've already seen. The measurements, it's quite nice, they are quite clear on the actual terrain, so it's quite easy to set up. They are all obscuring, and you can see here these 2 count as 2 separate ones, so you can't see through. And it's nice that much like WTC, they're actually adding what counts as what, and here what counts as kind of visible and kind of demarcating it still. You then have the 2 different symbols for attack and defender, blue and red, that kind of denote the territory, which as you can see just splits straight through the middle, so you know which side is which. Still have the same deployment zones as well, so that's not changed. And then we have these very long pieces which they have kind of shown as having barricades on, and then the 2 here have forests. These 2 have smaller kind of ruin little bits. We also then have hammer and anvil, which is very similar, and again we have the 5 objectives. You have some nice big little hiding spots here, which are pretty useful for staging, although pretty aggressively close to your opponent. Both of them have this large ruin space, whatever kind of you put on top, in the middle, which is quite interesting how different it is. And a lot of these have 2 kind of smaller ruin pieces in between. They have shared the sizes, which are quite different overall. So if you are looking to use the new layouts when they're released at home, I have said there will be a printout, so you can probably print onto stock card, make life a bit easier for yourself, but they will be released for free as a PDF, so can use those, or third party, or whatever set they release. So that's useful in terms of, for tournament organisers, it's going to be quite fun because they're quite different. So again, they are reinforcing the idea of it being more of a narrative. So whether you're playing at the World Championships or the kitchen table, it helps to reinforce a story behind the mission. So they're seemingly, for 11th edition, really focusing on that marrying of the game story over anything else. We'll see how much it translates. They note as well that as everything is obscuring, even those long thin area terrains, creates opportunities to have a variety of different terrain pieces on top of that footprint. So you have Mechanicus barricades or field generators, but you can fill them with whatever suits your collection. So they're kind of making it a point of the fact that you don't have to rush out and buy an entire new terrain collection. Do you want trees? Do you want strange xenos growths? ruins, so there is that advantage that at least you can use what you already have without having to go and buy more or buy different. So large ruins will still have a place, especially on the big midfield areas of terrain, and physical features of terrain still matter for drawing line of sight in and out. So there is still that can you see true line of sight that exists. Plunging fire is another one that, from the looks of things, is going to be much more common when you're playing. So we have a nice little interaction here that showcases how it works. So anything with a towering keyword, first of all, such as Imperial Knights, get plunging fire if they're within 12 units or 12 inches, sorry, of a unit on ground level. So that is +1 ballistic skill. So it appears to be that the modifier, main one at the moment that they're showcasing, is impact to ballistic skill, whether that is cover into a ruin or whether that is plunging fire. Both are impacting ballistic skill, as opposed to AP and save changes from 10th. So a knight will be +1 ballistic skill or anything towering when within 12 inches. Similarly, it showcases a unit of sisters on the other side. Any terrain feature that has a height of 3 or more inches and the target contains models that are on the ground level, that unit of Chaos Space Marines in the middle, you'll also get plunging fire against that. This is a big change. Obviously plunging fire was 6 inches, which was quite rare. It didn't really exist on most GW layouts. Traditionally, a lot of theirs were 4-inch high ruins. Very few tables on GW events had higher terrain pieces than that, or particularly ruins that were 6 inches, especially ruins where you could fit whole units. You might have had like a tiny little third floor that was 6 inches. In UKTC and WTC, both of those had the top floors of their larger ruins. The big L on UKTC had the ability to be plunging fire, but it's one of those rules that didn't really come up as much. So this is quite an interesting change, that actually there will be a lot more opportunities to use it. Be interesting with knights, how much of an impact this has, as often knights hitting on 2s is sometimes a problem, but they do have to be danger close to do it. So again, they remind you that there will be terrain footprints ready to purchase at the start of the new edition, and their future scenery sets are being designed with these templates in mind. So there are going to be releases, it would appear, that kind of fit with their new terrain standard. If you want to do it and use as it is, there are some very different plate sizes, which unfortunately, if you have a large collection of terrain plates like I do, I have around 1,000 12x6 plates, they're trickier to use now, so particularly for the first two that are 11.5 inches and then 8 or 7. So it's quite tricky to use those. 2 of them are triangles as well, and then 4 large rectangles, so they're quite a bit different from what we have now. Again, the only one that exists from 10th edition is the 6x4 rectangles. You then have the 2 long lines. If you have the 10x5 inch one, you can at least try and cut them in half if they're neoprene or acrylic, if you kind of have access to the tools. I'm very much hoping I'm going to be able to at least do that with some of mine, to kind of cut down on the cost of updating an awful lot of terrain features in preparation for the June GT, which will likely be 11th, as well as the Kent Major, where we'll need to acquire a sizable number of these as well, so that'll be fun. And then the other one that probably you can create using what you already have, the 4 short lines, 6 inches by 2 inches, you can probably take your 12x6 plate, cut it in half to get the 6 inches, and then cut it 3 times. That will give you 6 pieces per terrain plate. So hopefully that kind of means not having to buy as many, or as they said, they are going to release the kind of cardboard printable ones might be a good starting point before shelling out on new ones at the start of the edition, until kind of you are happy with what's available or looking to kind of commit to something. So later this week we're going to find out more about how objectives work, so it will be interesting to kind of learn that one. But yeah, there's new snapshot of those rules, and going to continue to do these little videos as we go forward as a way to learn about the rules.